Warburton.
Call the meeting to order. Christian, would you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Corbin.
Here.
Commissioner Waldner.
Here.
Commissioner Phil.
Here.
And Mayor Denner.
Here. We have the agenda in front of us.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
We got a motion to approve the agenda and a second. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. See nothing under appearance and acknowledgement. We'll move into consent calendar. Anybody want to?
Make a motion, we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Nothing in unfinished business. We'll move into new business. Number 1, review and award bid AIP 3-46-0029-017-2019 rehabilitate and remark runway 15-33 and turnaround, and we need the motion to be continuous upon receiving an acceptable federal grant offer for the project. Chad.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Denner and Commission. Included in the agenda packet is a letter dated July 10, 2019 from Jake Braunagel of KLJ. It's addressed to my attention, but it's really recommending action to you as the City Commission regarding the item that you just read, Mayor Denner, which is the review and award of the bid. The bids, as mentioned in the letter, were opened on June 18th at 3 o'clock. There's 3 bidders. The low bidder was National Sealant and Concrete, LLC. KLJ has accomplished some preliminary review of their bid and made a recommendation to proceed with this company with the contingency that Mayor Dennert had articulated for this project. There's two requests in this letter, but maybe to explain this one a little bit more, this particular agenda item, I'll talk about the next one. The next item is to approve the grant agreement that will subsequently be coming from FAA, and that grant agreement often comes, and the FAA asks us to return and sign that within less than a week typically, and so it's a common practice to ask that be pre-approved, provided that it meets the amount requested in the grant application. You may recall a couple weeks ago you requested authorized the mayor to sign a grant application, and so as to eliminate the issue of the short timelines and trying to get this on the City Commission agenda and so on, we ask that this be approved with a contingency. We've done this on several other projects in the past. So that's the grant award. But then, of course, the first item on the agenda is the actual bid. Well, the grant award is, in essence, for this project. And so Part A would be you actually have to accept the bid with the same contingency, and then you also have to, you don't have to, I mean, the item at hand is to ask that you approve both with this contingency on them, that the grant come back as requested. And I can stand by for questions.
Is this where the federal pays 80?
90%.
90.
State pays 5%, and so we would pay 5%.
5%.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Chad.
Chad, and we do already have the grant? Is that reading
We
here,
submitted
or-
the grant application.
Okay, so,
We don't have the grant offer yet.
got it.
That will
That's-
come, and,
That's,
yeah,
I
sorry about
didn't
that.
see it here, so I was like, okay.
I should have been a little bit more clear, but that will come, and they'll request that that be turned around and signed by the mayor, and I believe the attorney has to sign a certification with that as well, and so we want to not have to try to scramble to get it on a meeting
Yep.
agenda after it comes, so we've tried to use this method before.
Understand.
Getting our ducks in a row.
Yep.
Okay.
Less to have to remember and keep track of.
Yep.
And keeps it moving. Well, Bob, everything okay out there at the airport?
So far, so good. You're
This, we
getting
probably shouldn't do this then?
Well, yeah, we're gonna have to. I'll make a motion that we award the bid to AIP 3-46-0029-017-2019, remarking the runway 15-33 turnarounds.
And can I have you add on the, after that it's contingent upon receiving an acceptable federal grant offer for the project?
Okay,
Second.
I gotta read that.
Nope.
We'll get it in there.
She did.
But just so everyone understands that, the
Yep.
first new business, everything is contingent on that, so.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further comments, discussion? Not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 2, authorize mayor to sign grant agreement FAA-AIP 3-46-0029-017-2019 rehabilitate remark runway 1533 and turnaround contingent on receiving an acceptable federal grant offer.
And just so we clarify that is in the amount that we applied for.
So this is the actual grant we're sending on?
They'll send us a grant agreement,
Yeah.
and they'll say, we want you to sign this grant agreement.
Oh, this is the agreement.
Yep, and in that, it'll have, as Kristen just mentioned, it'll say the amount. And with this contingency, the only way it will technically be approved is if it's for the exact amount we've requested, which was for the project itself and the project oversight that KLJ is providing. And actually, we fronted the money, as I recall, on the design, so it'll be the design package as well. Basically, all of our costs for this work.
Yep.
And then it'll be 90% federal, 95 state, and then ours.
Or 5%. I'll make a motion we authorize mayor to sign grant agreement FAA-AIP 3-46-29-17-2019 for the rehabilitate remark runway 1533 and the turnarounds.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any further
Does this
comments?
also have to be contingent
Yes.
on award of federal?
Yes.
Is that a
this is-
caveat on this one too?
Yep, as stated earlier, it's contingent on receiving an acceptable federal grant offer for the project in the amount that we applied for.
Thank you.
Okay, any further comment, discussion? Not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 3, approve proposal for design service, Design Art Group renovation of water building. Brad?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You should have in your packet a letter proposal for doing design services for a building we want to convert into the new water distribution sewer collection headquarters, if you will, or place to store their equipment and have a call home. They're currently in part of a building behind the city shop out there, the Public Works shop, and they're in like a third or whatever of the building. This would, more than double their space by moving to this other area. They've got a lot of equipment kind of shoehorned inside there, and it makes it difficult for them to utilize different pieces of equipment without having to move 2 or 3 things and spend 10 minutes backing stuff and jacking stuff to get it out of the corner. And this will give them a little bit better place to do all that, have more room to store stuff, and it's something we can pay for easily with our professional services. All 3 funds have professional services, more than enough to cover this, so that'd be my recommendation. And this will give us budget numbers and then plans that we can go to bids on. We're going to be real close to the bid amount requirement, so in this case we'd be better off to have a package put together instead of going out and getting quotes and finding out we're over and starting this process over.
Where's this building physically at? Is it attached?
It's the middle building. It's the one like we got our main, the electric building, Cars for Less. It's the one that sits behind Cars for Less
Got it.
to the west.
Garage door.
Yep.
So what are you planning on wanting in that building?
The plan is to renovate it so that the one area, the new garage door area, that was the oil containment area, and it had a concrete wall, 8-inch concrete wall up about 3.5 feet, would be to renovate that into a wash bay. It's big enough to pretty much wash everything we have, and that way it'd be community wash bay. So this would be more than just for the utilities, but we'll pay for it and everybody can use it. The other part of it would have a small break room / office and bathrooms, and then it'd just be renovating the truck storage area so they'd have heated area for they keep their trucks. Part of it would be, it's kind of a 2-level, 2-tier building, if you will, where there's a kind of a zigzag wall that goes through there. The back part we would renovate enough just to have modest heat. We wouldn't necessarily heat that up to 60 degrees or something like that, but we'd keep it well above freezing so we could put anything in there we wanted and not have to worry about it freezing up. Right now it's a pole shed that it's got foam lining the roof, and that's about it for insulation on that part. The other part has a little additional insulation. The plan would be to put in liner panel, insulate the sidewalls, purlins, liner panel it, and then put liner panel on the top and blow in insulation and get it to where it's a very heatable, very climate controlled building. So
Can we go back and talk a little? I support this. I've talked to you about it.
Mhm.
I've talked to some of the guys, so it's not that I don't, but just so we're clear. What do you want in this request? What is your request for?
just to approve the design services for $5,000.
So basically, the design of the building.
Yes.
Okay, a company design.
And that'd be
Design work, bring the
produce,
spec and all those
yeah,
things.
produce specifications and
Right.
plans that we can go out to bid on.
Yeah.
I think we're going to end up just a little bit north of the bid requirements, so we have to do this. If it wasn't for that, we could possibly go out and get quotes and that type of stuff with some rudimentary drawings and sketches. And they actually proposed doing that for less money, but in order to go out for bids, it was another $1,500. And I thought that that was prudent to have that so that we don't get caught in that in-between spot.
Because the rudimentary, yeah, napkin from a restaurant.
I've done that before, and it was a Hardee's napkin. And if you ever get to Fort
You don't
Pierre,
get much with it.
you go to Lily Park and you go to the park shelter. That park shelter was designed on a Hardee's napkin. So
What you said
this is more important than that.
I would say. You said there's three fund professional
Yes.
services. What are you proposing? Which funds to take those from?
It'd be coming out of it'd be again, sewer collection, water distribution, and electric distribution.
Okay.
And what the deal is on the whole facility is split on a prorated basis based on a formula we came up with for which entities had so much money of discretionary spending, total spending, and all that stuff. And so we went and kind of made this formula and we've been following it for the building that we're in right now, and the idea was to use that for the entire property throughout, and that we split up our costs so that, because everybody's going to use the wash bay, everybody's going to use the storage at some point in time, and so we're just splitting out the costs so that property is the municipal utility property, and everything in there is split the same way. So there's no question who pays for what. It's not one person's building, so to speak. Everybody gets to share in all the buildings. So
What are we going to do with that piece of property, that building that we're going to not abandon, but they're going to move out of behind the shop?
I anticipate, and I can't speak for Gary Gagno, but I anticipate that he has some money in reserve that he would like to do some renovations to that building and make it more usable for his stuff. If you've been in there, especially in the wintertime when they're doing snow operations, they can't put everything inside with the plows on especially. And he would like to take that entire building over, renovate it, put a concrete floor in it, get it so it's heatable, and then they can move some of their equipment back there, or at least get a concrete floor in it and use it for cold storage for some of their stuff to make more room in the warm part. So he can speak to that when the time comes, but that was my understanding. And originally they had talked about building a brand new building. And this would save them quite a bit of money because they've already got an existing building on their land. It's ready to go, and it just needs to have some renovations. So this was and hopefully in the end, this is the most efficiency we could provide out of all of those things.
And speaking, and thank you for stating that for me, because that would have been a lot more cumbersome to the company. But that is kind of Gary's plan, I think. I think we need a little more work room too for parks mowers and those things. When Mike is working on them, we just start banging into things, trying to repair things. So I'm hopeful that this will be part of Gary's.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the things
Some of
that
your equipment.
and one of the things that'll happen, this will free up space where
When he looked at me, I was like,
there's stuff stored in a bunch of different places, and Mike is one of them that has stuff stored in different places, and he's trying to consolidate it. So we did authorize him to go utilize the old back building at the electric, the new shop, if you will, the new storage shed, and he's using that for storage of some of his stuff because he had it. You couldn't walk through a couple of his places, and it was honestly it was a safety hazard, and so we authorized him to go utilize that because it's empty. So why not have him utilize that, make his place safer, store the stuff in a better manner, and so that he's already in part of our old space, trying to utilize that the best we can. So all hands on deck.
So I just asked those questions. Well, some of it Gary and I talked about, but I just asked so that the commission's aware that we do have plans for these buildings. We're not just abandoning something, building something, renovating.
Now, what about the public works building?
No, that's
The front part of that.
Is there heat in this building
Still
that
good
you're
question.
talking about right now?
We removed it. Last winter, we needed some extra heat at the power plant. But there wasn't, right now, there's no heat in there right now.
yeah, I think anytime that we can get equipment and especially mowers and that type of equipment, if you can get it inside, especially during our winters, even just rain, I mean, it just tears up that equipment if you gotta leave it outside. So now this 5,000, you again mentioned like the different accounts, and you're gonna split it across all three of those accounts. So
Yes, sir.
okay,
And then
I'll make a motion that we.
I got a couple questions, please. I guess I'm not real in favor of another break room over there. I mean, if we need the room, let's use it for storage. We got a nice break room over in the East River building. Why don't we use that for everybody?
In the offices spaces, we just got 2 guys moved over into the East River building. You got office spaces sitting out there. I don't think we need to add any more office spaces to the buildings out there. And it don't take much to drive a truck in. You sure don't need to spend the money on getting a design to put a truck in storage or mowers or anything else.
I don't think this building is just for storage that he's proposing to move from right now.
They currently, in their current building, they do have heat, they do have a bathroom, they do have, they don't have an area, if you will, for anything paperwork-wise. That's kind of the idea, is that you'd have a spot where you could, put that stuff out of the truck bay, if you will. And whether it's manuals or maps or whatever, we can use it for whatever purpose. The idea was that there was an area there that you can't really exploit for vehicle parking because it's got a 1.5-foot curb all the way around it, and we're only going to cut a small doorway through it so you can get into it and then access the areas behind it. So the idea wasn't to cut the curb out the whole way because that'd get fairly expensive. And then there's no door there to get in because that's where the vestibule is. It's behind the vestibule. And we can change the plans as we go along. This is just the first thought process. I haven't sat with Jan and his guys to see exactly what we need in there, but
Is this something that our engineering department can design instead of us going out and hiring another firm to come in here and do this?
Well, Brad and I haven't spoken about that, but I mean, we do have a pretty full plate going on right now, I'll just say that.
with RD now, plus another RD project we're looking at, plus state revolving loan fund for the water and sewer, there's plenty going on. It's going to be a challenge to throw much more in. You know,
And you're talking
architectural.
you know,
Yeah.
So this is the first part, getting the
Right.
architect set up. When are you looking at wanting to do the project?
We look at trying to let it here at the tail end of the year. Haven't had a chance to go through. We've got to get the final costs on the current construction project and get those wrapped up. There were some things that were coded in different places, and we need to get them all brought into the total, so I know exactly where we're at. The idea was to start tail end of this year, do a little bit of the work on this year's remaining money, and then fund the rest of it with next year's fund. Then we'd budget that this year, so we need the numbers for the budget so we can get everything put together here in the next month or so.
I guess the other question I have is, now you said the money's coming out of the municipal building fund that you had left over from that? Okay. And I talked to Jen about that. We really don't need a motion in a second on that, where the funds are coming from, being it was already authorized. But we can put it in there. Just
Well, the funds for this is coming out of professional services, right?
Yeah.
The
If
funds for when
won't
we
be doing any of
construct would
those
come out
funds
of-
For another, it'll be 3 months before
Yeah.
we see that come back to us for the actual project. This is just professional services.
We don't want
This is just
we don't want this to
architecture.
come out of the project fund. We want it to come out of professional services.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I mean, these guys are professionals. This is what they do. I mean, they can come back and some of the other detailed questions that you guys had, you know, that he called it a break room. You could call it a work room if you want. And they might have a pop machine there and a few pop cans and their cooler on the desk or something, and, you know, a coffee maker maybe or whatever. But it sounds like that's just specifically, because that building, I mean, I've walked through it. You can only do so much with it, and there's only, and so, I mean, make it work for what the guys need, and I mean, this is up to 5,000, so that doesn't scare me too much.
So just to clarify, Brad, you are just wanting the dollars, if you will, to come out of your 2019 budgeted professional services for the municipal buildings for those funds?
Out of those three.
This 5,000 that I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yep.
Yeah, it'd
To
just
come
be-
out of your 2019 budgeted?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'd pay for the engineering this year.
Yep.
And, you know,
That's what Marshall, I think, was getting to when he talked
Right.
with Jen
Right.
earlier.
If we were going to use the leftover money like you talked to us,
that would be for construction.
okay, that's going to be used for construction, okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure Jen made it clear what we needed to be on.
Mhm.
You know, like both you and Chad said, we got a lot on our plate into this year. I could see getting the proposal, but starting the project, I'd like to see hold off till next year, see where our budget falls in. We haven't even started talking about budget yet. So,
And we'll have that opportunity before we go to bids. I mean, we wouldn't go to bids unless we had a clear path forward with funding, so,
So the first thing is to get a design.
and get a budget.
Then we'll make decisions
Yeah.
about
Estimate.
future funding after that. I'll make a motion to approve proposal for item number 3 proposal for design services, design art group dash renovation of water building. Item number 3 on the
Second.
agenda of business.
Utilizing professional services?
Yes.
From all three of the entities as Brad had indicated.
Okay,
Yeah.
any more comment, discussion? Not, we'll take a roll call vote on this, please.
Commissioner Corbin,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Hey.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Thill,
Nay.
and Mayor Denner.
Nay. Motion carried. Public comment? I think we have one. That's all right, thank you. Scott, if you want to hop up to the mic so everybody can hear you.
All right. Is that turned on?
Yep.
All right. All right. Good evening. My name's Scott Parsley, and I live here in Madison, 103 North Liberty Avenue. I appreciate the opportunity to come to the commission tonight. I've lived in Madison. I just was sitting back here thinking 37 years, and this is the first time I've addressed a guest body of the Madison City Commission. So thank you for that opportunity. So what I want to talk about tonight, briefly if I can, is the Center Street Boulevard project. I've talked to the city engineer a number of times about it. I appreciate those times, but I thought it was worthwhile just to bring it to the commission tonight, just to kind of show you some of the work that's been done down there. And I've got some pictures that I can just hand those around. This is a picture of the boulevard after we got 1.5 inches of rain, and they decided that that was the day they should spray it. And that's just my lawn, or your boulevard, abutting my property. Across the street, it was much worse than that. The way they dug up the yard as they went down through it. I guess that's just partly indicative of what has happened out there. When they sprayed that day, they sprayed for broadleaf, and yeah, there's broadleaf out there, but our real problem in that whole area is quackgrass. And that the spraying that they did didn't touch the quackgrass at all. You can see in that picture all the quackgrass that's there. On my property, it's gotten quite deep, and the reason it's gotten so deep is these 3 pictures that I'll pass around now. The top one is tree roots. When they took here's actually another tree root picture. When they removed the dirt and brought the grading on the curb down on the boulevard, they exposed a number of tree roots, and I have one that's probably about, you can't really see it on that picture, but it's about 3 or 4 inches in diameter, and it stands straight up on the ground, and it's probably about 6 inches out of the ground. If I could get my mower over the top of it to mow it, it would tear the mower apart. So then the other piece, and I think the other pictures that you'll see there, are the number of rocks that are in the boulevard. Again, it's your boulevard, but I need to take care of it for us all. And I really am hesitant to take my mower out there, and that's why I haven't mowed it off yet, because there are so many big rocks in that boulevard that it's not going to be a very good thing for my mower between the time I hit the tree roots and I hit the rocks. And then one other issue is by the street light, I have about a 3 or 4 inch dip where the dirt is down below the curb. I mean, every place else it's pretty nicely shaped so that the water will run off and everything will be nice. And actually for maintenance on it, under the old curb, we knocked the curb out over the years, plowing snow and doing all kinds of stuff. It got pretty hard to mow along that curb. This would be an issue that would be pretty tough. Finally, just to talk about whether there was even any grass seed put in or not. This is this is the back side of the sidewalk on the boulevard on the other street, on Liberty, where they had to take out those corners so they could put the new zero grade access sidewalks in. If you can find any grass in that picture, I mean, I would sure welcome you to. I did talk to the guy watering the other day. He was out right after it rained again the other day. He was watering. He kind of laughed. He said, "Well, the weeds are coming along pretty good." And I said, "Well, you know, you've never watered that. They don't ever water over the sidewalk to get that back piece." And I noticed that on a number of both the corners as they've gone down. You know, there's 3 or 4 homeowners that have really nice, their lawns do look nice after their boulevards do it. So I stopped to talk to them. They have paid for weed spray and grass seed. And I'm not opposed to doing that. That's what the city wants us to do. Because I'm really not excited about having our city look like this. I mean, my wife and I are 2 people who walk down the street, pick up garbage when we see it, pull ragweeds when we see it. So it's troubling for me to have this boulevard this way, and that's why I'm here tonight. It's troubling for me personally and my lawn, the way I like to take care of it, but it's troubling for me for the reflection on the city. And there's only about 2 really good lawns. There's one lady down the street that has cockleburs this high on her boulevard. They missed those when they sprayed. They didn't apparently get the spray over them or something. So I'm just here tonight. If the decision is that the commission doesn't want to do anything about this, I just need to know that. Because if that's the case, Val and I will spend our money and we'll do it this fall when it should be done. The other issue is we planted grass the 8th or whatever it was of June. You should just never plant grass after the 1st of June, and you shouldn't plant grass before the middle or the end of August. I mean, it's just not a good time. Because the weeds like to grow then, and once the quackgrass takes over, it's my lawn, it's just gonna have to be sprayed and killed, the whole thing, because you can't ever get that quackgrass out of there any other way now. So, I'm just here tonight just to offer that. Anybody, I give free tours for anybody that wants to come look at it.
I've had my tour.
Scott, you know how many times, I know you're not at home all the time, but how many times have they been out watering?
Well, I will say the first time they watered, it was right after we got an inch and a half of rain. It rained an inch and a half in the morning. I talked to the city engineer about it, and he said, I went down and told him this wasn't the proper time to be watering.
Okay.
They watered 3 other times that I'm aware of.
So 4 times altogether,
But again,
roughly.
I mean, like Saturday, it's great to be watering it. You're getting you're giving the crackgrass a lot of good basin water there to grow taller and taller and taller, and it's probably 18 inches on my lawn. I'm sure you can cite me for not taking care of my lawn right now.
I guess, and I will throw out that, I have pictures on my cell phone if you want to see more pictures as well of other residents, not just Scott. And you and I, we've never talked about this either, so I'm glad that you brought it up and, brought it forward. And, obviously this has a lot to do with our contractor. I know that we had talked about they were delayed on something else and they were going to come back and do more or something. I don't remember those details, but a couple of things, and I don't know if we need to write it in better in the specs. Obviously, when they backfill that in, that should be black dirt. It shouldn't be fill from the road that, I've walked down there, I've ridden my bike down there, I've driven down, and you're not the only one. So all of your neighbors should be very appreciative of you coming forward and bringing it to us, in a session here. But I guess my next question is how do we fix it? What recourse do we have against this vendor, this contractor? Obviously, I don't want him planting anything at this point until after Labor Day or around Labor Day, because as Scott mentioned, it's worthless as a waste of their time. However, I don't want all these ragweed and cockleburs, spreading throughout the community either.
Yeah, good question, and thank you for coming in, Scott. We've talked more than I'd hoped to have to talk to people about the inconvenience, because it is poor. it's been poor.
Mhm.
So we do have a spec, and the contractor has commenced. The goal was to, and it's a similar spec to other jurisdictions that have used it. It's a difficult thing to do, seeding and with the maintenance and such like that. But it needs to be done better. And so a couple different things is, we had watering on the spec. Well, let me back up even. The date we had as a goal to get it in, I was giving them a target of June 1st, but that's a state DOT deadline as well, but it actually could have slipped a little bit. I think it may have been around, Scott mentioned the 8th. I thought it might have been the 3rd or so when they got it done. So it was later than ideal, for sure. So then they have to go through this process of watering. And so just maybe to cut to the chase, and then I can get into other details maybe, is they have a period where they have to water and maintain the lawn to provide a solid turf, 45-day period where we pay for the watering and so on. And it is frustrating with the watering. I have a daily, because you got a prime contractor with a subcontractor with a subcontractor. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but we got it worked out now. It's like, they're trying, don't water if it's rained the night before. So I report daily on that. So I think we got that figured out. So anyway, they have this 45-day period, and then we're going to reevaluate. And at that point in time, they're going to redo a lot of work. They're going to do a lot of these yards, and then they're going to start a new 45-day period, and that's going to be without cost to the city that they have to put it in. So that ends, I think, later this week is when that ends, and then we'll evaluate, give some direction as to what's going to happen, and I fully anticipate a good portion of them will be retilled up and replanted. We've had several, as you might expect, conversations with the contractor and their sub and so on to address the issue, and they aren't just, quite frankly, aren't getting it done. One of the subs, the subcontractor finally got an operations manager there, and that's when they agreed to put some chemical down. We're not paying them for them separately for that, but then they contact True Green and they do it at the wrong time, and they make a bunch of ruts, and so it's been very, very frustrating. So we're looking to redo it, probably no sooner than August 15th. I'd like to get it done so we can wait and get some good growth, hopefully in a fall plant, and have some good turf.
So a couple of things. One is what I heard you say is that it's hard because you have to maintain it, babysit it. And my response to that is, if it's that hard, then don't bid on it. Don't do it. Let somebody else do it. The other part is that if you bid on it and you are to do it, we need to look at what other recourses do we have. Can they come back with a skid steer and scrape out the bad dirt and bring in good black dirt? I mean, what level can we go to have that happen, I guess is my question.
Right.
I don't know.
Do we want to consider doing the finishing work ourselves, since we're the ones left with the consequences?
I mean, there's any different way to do it contractually that would you could make work. We've opted to use this spec, I'll just say it that way, and try to administer it as firmly as we can. And the one thing I like about it is we give them all the tools they need, and we tell them what they need to do in this 45-day period, for example, including watering, and if they want to anticipate putting weed killer down, if they want to anticipate mowing it a couple times even and such like that, then they need to put that in their bid. We'll pay for it, which is fine. We want good turf. I mean, that's what the deliverable is. Okay, and so, but if they don't put it in, they got to expect on the other end they're going to come back in and they're going to redo it on their cost. And so that's where we're at. In the meantime, it's very frustrating for myself and the city because it does look bad, and it's very frustrating for the landowners.
Time consuming
Yeah.
on your part that
It is.
quite honestly you get bigger
Yeah,
projects that are going on and that I mean
that's all part of it, though.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But
So, yeah.
Just if I could do one final comment. If I was going to do it myself, I think what needs to be done is at least everything that's there needs to be killed.
Kill.
And it
Spray.
needs to be scraped. I would take 2 to 4 inches off, and then I'd bring in black dirt. 'Cause I mean, one day we visited a little bit, and I had picked up a gallon of rocks and got tired of picking rocks. I did that when I was a kid. I didn't think I needed to do that anymore. And came down and talked to Chad, and I know Chad talked to him. I know he did. And they just picked up the rocks I had laid in the gutter. They didn't pick up one rock and then by that time, the guy was following with the seed, and then they came by that night with the emulsifier to hold it. And so, and probably, not probably, I know I put on enough seed to make it grow instead of not enough seed, because I don't think they don't put enough seed on it.
Yeah, they had some equipment issues, and when they use the different methods, they are supposed to use additional hand seeding, for example, as opposed to a drop seeder or the spray application. They have to increase that. And then with certain approvals, we would pay for the additional seed if there's no fault of the contractor. In other words, if there's a pole in the way and they can't fit a drop seeder along there, or a tree or something like that. So.
Then the final thing I would do, and I would recommend to the contractor, is I would roll it with a water-filled roller, because that will keep your weeds down, and that will keep the ryegrass and stuff from coming up. We give the grass a chance to grow before those weeds get up. So that's why we roll weeds. Increase the yield because it shuts the weeds off.
Chad, you said Friday, probably the end of 45 days?
I believe it's Thursday or Friday, yeah.
I guess it's our decision. Do we give them another chance, or are we going to end up 45 more days with the same thing?
They're contractual, if I may, they're contractually obligated to do it. So I don't, if you go hire somebody else, you're going to pay them. We're not going to pay them anything. I would say let them do it. That'd be my recommendation.
Can we go and say, hey, we want it sprayed, we want it dug up 2 inches, put black dirt down, and then seed it and roll it? Can we ask for that?
It says that in there right now. First, a local contractor who was on the project, he said any topsoil he took off, he sifted through because there was roots and sod in it, and he brought that back. So I'm not necessarily going to concede that it wasn't topsoil brought back in there. There may have been, during the course of construction, maybe not the most ideal, but I believe by and large, topsoil's back in there. There's bad spots in places for sure, and we'll address those in this rework period.
I think we ought to make them be held accountable. I don't think the city should go in and take it over, because once you step in after a contractor's been there, you're liable, and I don't feel taxpayers should be liable, and that's part of the contract. And
I think that's what you're saying. We still have options with the contractor, with the current contractor. However, at this point, I would remind the commissioners that we are not here to make a decision at this tonight. It's not an agenda.
No.
I do appreciate the coming forth, and I
Yes.
did go with it with my grandsons, and we did pick up some rocks, and I thought, this is beyond a 5 and 6-year-old and a 65-year-old man who could repair this, but it is bad. No question about it. So I appreciate, I think you're not speaking, and Scott, I don't think you're just speaking for your own property, but several people there, and also for future projects. We've got some things coming up that this is a good warning shot across the bow for us. They just need to be more prepared about things like this. And I don't think we were unprepared, it's just that we were having some problems with our contractor. But
Okay, thanks.
thank you for
Thank
coming,
you,
Scott.
Have a good evening.
Yep.
You too.
Stay cool.
Scott, do you want your photos?
thanks a lot.
Maybe you want to keep them just.
Well, we may need that.
Posterity.
Chad, do you want to
Legal purpose.
show the contract? Do you need
What's that?
the
Do you need
pictures?
those pictures?
Oh, it's pretty obvious. You walk around out there.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Just-
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Nothing else for public comments, announcements? No executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried.